Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining us again today. Well, we've been getting more requests for concealable 1911 style pistols, so today we're going to be talking about the Desert Eagle 1911 Undercover by Magnum Research. It's a pretty neat little pistol. We're going to cover all the features and tell you all about it in just a minute. All right, once again, welcome back. Thanks for being with us today. If this is your first time coming to the channel, or if you've been watching our videos and just haven't had a chance to do so before now and you like our content, please consider subscribing. You can do that by locating that little button in the right-hand corner of your computer screen, or if you're on a mobile device, you can scroll down below the video and you can subscribe that way. It's a very simple thing that helps out a whole lot, and we really appreciate it. So, Desert Eagle 1911 Undercover. This is Undercover because it is the smaller version, the 3-inch. They do actually make a larger version of this very same gun, if you're interested in that. But we're focusing on the Undercover today. And just getting right into your base comparison, if you have had any experience with any other smaller 1911s, I, for one, my favorite up to this point that I own is my little Kimber Ultra CDP2 here. Of all the small 1911s I own, this one's my absolute favorite. They're both 45 ACP. They're, of course, since they're both 1911s, they're very, very much just almost identical. There's very few things that you're going to see change between these guns, and that's the nature of a 1911. And for some people, that's a good thing, that kind of consistency between the models. Now, the one thing to keep in mind, when it comes to carry guns, you've heard me talk about trying to keep them as small and light as possible. If you're going with a 1911, even a 3-inch 1911, you are not keeping the weight down. This is a pretty hefty gun, even in the 3-inch version. So if you plan on carrying this, your holster is going to make a big difference. It depends on how you carry. Usually when I'm carrying a 3-inch 1911 like this, I'm carrying it at work, and I've got a little maybe a sticky inside my bag. But if I'm carrying it on the body, it'll be quite a different story of the holster, and we'll get to that when we get to the holster section. But this gives you a pretty good idea of the size, and that's going to be important when you decide if you're going to carry it. All right, let's talk about the features here, but let's take a moment first to thank our friends over at Don's Weaponry for providing us this beautiful example of the Desert Eagle 1911 Undercover by Magnum Research for our tabletop review today. Don's Weaponry is a huge supporter of firearm safety and education, and we can't thank them enough. So we're going to do this in typical top-down fashion like we always do, but of course we're going to do a quick safety check like we always do, remove our magazine, and then what you see there, you can see there's nothing in the chamber. The gun is empty, so we are very much safe and good to go here. So, look at the top. You have just a normal pinned front sight here, a little white dot. And then you have this that steel rear sight. I really like to have, at the bare minimum, some kind of a 3-dot, but this isn't bad. And plus, this is adjustable. Windage and elevation adjusted on the rear sight there, so if you like that, that's a good feature to have. It's got pretty decent serrations. This is typical of what I see on all my 3-inch. They just have a nice set right here on the rear. It does have a skeletonized hammer. You can see there. You do have a extended thumb safety on this one. It is not ambidextrous. It is just on the left-hand side. You have an extended magazine release here. I kind of like having a decent size mag release on these. These are really nice grips. These are G10 grips, and aside from maybe really nice wood grips, this is probably one of my favorite grips to have on a handgun. It has a really, really good feel to it. And with the thickness of this grip and the positioning, you can have your hands where you want them, and you don't really feel like you're getting into that magazine release, even though it's extended, but it's just the right amount to get that magazine out quick and easy. So I like that quite a bit. And of course, you've got the checkering cut right into the, front strap here. So you've got a really good grip. Of course, you've got that on the rear as well. And of course, as we said, this is a 3-inch barrel. It is a bushingless barrel. And of course, you've got your trigger. You know, it's been lightened out there with the little holes there. Like I said, I think that's, when I see that, I think more of aesthetics than anything, because we can't be talking about much of a difference between a solid trigger and one with holes in it, but it still looks neat. But I really like the grips. I really like the look of this. I think the G10 grips with the finish look really nice. And like my Kimbers, it has a good feel in the hand, a good grip, and it looks like it's finished in pretty good quality. As you look over this and look at the different components, it looks like it's finished really well. So it's a firearm that looks like they took their time and did a good job of putting this together for you. So as a carry gun, of course, I'm always going to be concerned about how accurate and reliable the gun is. Now, I've been pretty fortunate. I've heard people tell different horror stories about their smaller 1911s. But so far, all of mine have been pretty good performers. The Desert Eagle 1911 here, this little Undercover, is no exception. What I look for is a firearm that's not picky about what type of ammo it's going to run. Now, obviously, all guns are going to have some kind of a break-in period, and it may not be much. Some firearms, you can run a couple of magazines through it, and it's pretty much good to go. I always clean, if it's a gun of mine, I always clean the gun thoroughly before it ever goes to the range for the first time, just to kind of help, increase the odds of a good performance. And then I try to vary the ammo. So in this case, we've got the 230 grain Winchester 45 ACP ammo. This stuff is pretty good. Not picky about that. The Blazer is also 230 grain 45 ACP. Put plenty of that through it, no problem at all. Defensive rounds. Most horror stories I hear from people is when they're trying to get defensive rounds to load because they get hung up or whatever reason. I haven't really had that problem either, typically, but for this test, both the Sig Sauer, this is the V-Crown 200 grain jagged and hollow point, and then I have the 230 grain jagged and hollow point Spear Gold Dot. No issues with any of these rounds chambering and firing. So as far as operational performance, really well. As far as accuracy, I always hesitate to say which round is going to be the most accurate, but I'll often tell you which one was most accurate for me. And out of everything I shot here, usually on my 9mm, the Sig V-Crown ends up being the most accurate, but the Spear, the Gold Dot, this was the most accurate round that I was able to put through the 1911. And this also goes for my other smaller ones. My Kimber, this Ultra CDP2, is also extremely happy with that particular round in the firearm. It feels good in the hand. Like I say, this grip, you gotta remember the G10 grips are pretty aggressive, so you need to be realistic about it. If you do a lot of shooting, like if you take this to the range for the afternoon and you put a lot of rounds through this, you're probably going to have some imprints on your hand by the time you get done, because this is pretty aggressive texturing on the grip. And it's not a big deal, and if you do a lot of shooting, you're used to that already, but just don't be surprised if you've shot a few magazines through this and your hands start to show it, because the positive part about a grip like this is you can keep a really, really good grip on the firearm, one-handed grip or two. You feel very confident the way you hold the weapon. And of course the downside is when it's very aggressive, it could leave a little bit of wear and tear on your hand. So just keep that in mind if you decide to take this to the range for the day and put a lot of rounds through it. So what's the carry experience like with a 3-inch 1911 like this? Well, as I said, there's a lot of different ways that you can carry this. Typically, when I'm carrying a firearm like this, it's usually not on my body. It's usually when I have a bag or a briefcase, and I just like carrying 1911s when I can. So if it's in the case, I'm typically going to have something like a sticky, so I can just put that down in the pocket of my briefcase, and everything is covered, but I have quick access to the firearm. So this is a very good way. And plus, if I'm carrying really large, like that big cargo pants with big pockets, I've been known to carry even a gun like this in my front pocket. I probably won't most of the time with the 1911 just because these are so heavy. Even in big baggy pockets, you're probably going to be pulling on your pants a little bit. So I'd recommend something, that's got a little bit more heft to it. Like I have a lot of these crossbreeds that have the Kydex and horsehide. These are really good holsters, and when you've got the firearm, loaded up inside, it's a really good balance. You got these clips on either side. You've got the horsehide that goes against your body, and there's lots of people that make holsters like this. There's dozens and dozens and dozens of companies, just whatever you feel like getting. I've had really good luck with crossbreed, which is why you see me using a lot of these. I've got them. I like them. They're well made, and I've never had any issues. So something like this with this kind of support, I think, is going to be the smartest option as far as carrying the gun. If you have the proper holster with good support like that, there's no reason you can't carry this all day. It can very easily be a good everyday carry firearm, but you do need that support because it is heavy. I don't recommend carrying something like this in just a single clip holster on your belt. I've done that, and it seems like even with a good belt, it kind of wants to pull your pants down a little bit more. You distribute that weight across, the larger, wider holster with the two clips. I think they do a lot better. So with the right holster, it can be a very comfortable option. So overall impressions of the Desert Eagle 1911 Undercover. Well, there's good, there's bad. I'd say mostly good. And when I say bad, it's going to be not necessarily bad about the gun. It's just a lot of people, they get hung up on their budget. And this is not a cheap firearm. This firearm retails anywhere from $975 or so to $1,000. So it's an expensive 1911. Now, I say that in comparing it to my Kimbers. A lot of these Kimbers I remember new were probably in the $800 or so range, but the way gun prices have been, comparably you can pay almost as much for one of these now if you can get them as something like this. So the price is a bit high, but it's not completely out of sorts for the market. Of course, a lot of people, they just absolutely will not pay that much money for a firearm, period. Not for a carry gun, not for anything. For me, I will tend to spend the money that it takes to get the firearm that I'm comfortable with, just because if it's a carry gun, I absolutely have to trust it. That's my number one thing. Because when you consider it, I always mention there's the three big ones on a firearm like this for carry: accuracy, reliability, and of course comfort. So you can carry one of these in comfort with the right holster. A 1911, with a little bit of practice, I don't know anyone who can't be accurate with a 1911, even a 3-inch barrel. They're very good shooting guns. And reliability. The Desert Eagle so far has been a very reliable pistol, just like my Kimbers and some of the other ones that I have. I think that it's well made. So for the price, the fact that it's a good performing firearm, the price doesn't put me off like it could some people. But if you're not of the opinion that firearms are going to be worth that much money, then this might be something that wouldn't be for you. But it is a good quality firearm. It's good enough to where if you've been on the fence about it over the price, I would just save up a little money and go ahead and get it, because I think you'd really enjoy it. But once again, 45 ACP, it's a round that I personally enjoy. I know a lot of people that they talk a lot of mess about the 45 ACP round. They think that 9mm makes more sense. You can carry more rounds in the gun. People have their different opinions about 1911s because of their, limitations as far as capacity. Some people, they just, 7 rounds is just not going to be enough for them. And of course, they do also give you 2 magazines with this, which would be my minimum expectation. But you got to remember, if you got 2 magazines, you got 7 plus 1, that's 8. So you've got 15 rounds total if you carry the extra magazine. I try to think like that because, number one, the people who really talk about capacity You got to remember what kind of situation you imagine yourself being in where you're going to need that many rounds anyway. I'm completely comfortable with a 7+1 capacity firearm on me. But you have to do what makes the most sense for you, because this is your self-defense, potentially your life, property, or those that you care about. So, make the decision that works best for you. But anyway, it's a good overall performing firearm, and I like it. So that's going to do it for today, everybody. We appreciate you being with us as always. Be back very soon with another video for you. So until that time, everybody, please stay safe and have a great day. Thank you.